Hello, I'm Michelle Boyd Waters with Rethink ELA. I'm a scholar of adolescent literacy, writing pedagogy, and student-centered learning. And today is the inaugural episode of my first Chapter Friday series. And the book that I'm starting with is one that I read, started reading it on the flight home from Boston, I believe it was. I had attended the Allen workshop and we had a event during the workshop where we got to meet a bunch of authors. And so the authors would come to our tables, they would hold up their books and tell us about the books. And then we also received a gigantic box of books. And I was always pretty amazed to have several books in my box and to be able to go through them. And yes, I'm a little nervous. This is the first episode after all. Opened up my box of books, and there were 70 pounds of books in the box, according to the Postal Service, because I mailed it home to myself. I did not have this book. And so I put a message out on social media asking if anybody else at the event had a copy of the book. And the author herself, Kate Messner, messaged me back and said if I didn't find a copy of the book to let her know and she would get me one, which I thought that was really amazing that she reached out directly to me. And of course, I'm never going to forget that. And so I would like to, well, that's not the only reason why I want to promote her book. I did read it. I did find a copy of it and traded a copy of something else for this one. And I did read it on the way home, and I think I finished it on the plane flight. And it was just an amazing book. It's one of those that's a book that's written in verse. So here's some of the poems, kind of, and there's some extra things in here, some ephemera that is not what you would normally see in a book. Here we have some text messages as well. And I love the eclectic nature of it. And it again is a super simple read. So if you're a teacher watching this, then this would be a great book for students who, if you hand them any other novel, would kind of freak out about how long it is. You can show them that there are not that many words on the page. It'll be fine. And it has some adventure. Let me share with you some of the text. This particular copy has a lot of praise written into it. I'm going to read all of that. And I probably need new glasses, but that's okay. All right, so here is the description. One summer, 46 mountain peaks, a second chance to make things right. Finn Connelly is nothing like his dad, a star athlete and firefighter hero who always ran towards danger until he died 2 years ago. Finn's about to fail seventh grade and has never made headlines until now. Caught on camera vandalizing a cemetery, he's in big trouble for kicking down some dead old lady's headstone. But it turns out that grave belongs to a legendary local mountain climber, and her daughter makes Finn an unusual offer. Climb all 46 Adirondack high peaks with her dead mother's dog, and they can call it even. In a wild 3 months of misadventures, mountain mud, and unexpected mentors, Finn begins to find his way on the trails. At the top of each peak, he can see for miles and slowly begins to understand more about himself and his dad. But the mountains don't care about any of that, and as the clock ticks down to September, they have more surprises in store. Finn's final summit challenge may be more than even a hero can face. And that's important because one of the main questions of this book is what makes a hero? And of course, this is called The Trouble with Heroes by Kate Messner. Messner is a New York Times best-selling author, and I could have sworn I had this page pulled up, but I'm going to get there hopefully very quickly. Yes. This book is the age range. It's recommended for 9 to 14, grades 4 to 6, but I'm grown and I enjoyed it. High school students may enjoy it, middle school students as well. It is a New York Times bestseller. It's a USA Today bestseller, a national indie bestseller. It's the #1 pick for May and June 2025 Kids Indie Next List. And Today Read with Jenna Jr. 2025 Summer Reading List. This book has received a lot of recognition, and I think rightfully so. I also have a special place in my heart for books that feature English assignments. And so you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a minute. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Oh, yes, and I also designed the little book plate, and so I put that in here. So super excited about that. Oh, yes, and I forgot to mention the author is also a proud Adirondack 46er, meaning she too has climbed all 46 peaks, which is probably what inspired her, a piece of what inspired her to write this book. That's one of the things that authors do is they'll take bits and pieces of their lives, people that they've met, things that they've done, and incorporate that into the books that they write. And so, anyway, The Trouble with Heroes by Kate Messner. And I got to show you the page. You can see it's a newspaper clipping. If I were a better kid, this story would begin with my 7th grade diploma. Instead, it starts with this. Saturday, May 28th, 2022, Adirondack Daily News. Local cemetery vandalized. A local youth has been arrested for vandalizing St. Mary's Cemetery over the holiday weekend. Lake Placid police responded to a complaint of someone kicking headstones shortly after 4 p.m. on Friday. Upon arrival, police found one headstone knocked over, detached from its base, and seriously damaged. It marked the final resting place of Edna Grace Thomas, longtime corresponding secretary for the Adirondack 46ers, and one of the first women to climb all 46 Adirondack high peaks. Surveillance camera images led investigation to a juvenile suspect who has been charged with criminal mischief and released into their parents' custody, pending a court appearance next week. And then we have our first poem. I'm sorry, okay? School is important. It's bad to damage headstones. This is a haiku. In case you haven't already figured it out, I'm the local youth. Who would have guessed that cemetery surveillance was even a thing? Captured on camera, front page of the newspaper. Vandal, criminal. Next time I do this, I'll be smarter and not wear Dad's old baseball cap. Everyone's seen me in that FDNY hat. Mystery solved, case closed. And yeah, I do know haikus are supposed to be naturey somehow. When I kicked the stone, birds were chirping in the rain like they were laughing. The trouble with vandalism. You can't kick over a headstone if it's the cheap kind, the small, squat, low-to-the-lawn kind, engraved with the name of somebody who used to be a hero. The only kind a family can afford in the middle of a pandemic when tourists aren't visiting and Grand's chocolate shop is closed. But it doesn't matter anyway. Nobody showed up to say goodbye. You can't hold her funeral in the middle of a pandemic. You can only have Graham and Mom and me and our neighbors, Mr. and Mrs. Park, standing 6 feet apart in the rain. If you knew anything about physics and the density of rocks and stuff, if you knew anything about anything, you'd know when you kick a headstone like that, it doesn't tumble and crash the way you want, with a giant thud thundering up to the clouds to let God know how mad you are. Interesting how the author, Al Messner, placed these words on the page. It doesn't tumble anywhere. It doesn't even tip. It doesn't move at all. If you're not smart enough to think that through, you kick the stone, leave a muddy, smudged shoe print, and limp away with a bruised foot that hurts so bad you're even angrier than you were when you kicked the headstone in the first place. So angry you need to kick something else, even though your toe is probably broken and the rest of you is, for sure. How was I supposed to know? Edna Grace Thomas, loving wife of Henry, mother to Kelly, Patrick, and Scott, also happened to be queen of the high peaks and beloved trail mother to thousands she encouraged to adventure outdoors. Seriously. If a person was really all that, wouldn't you make sure the part of their flimsy grave that said so wasn't all covered in moss? I made a new headline for the newspaper article. Angry kid knocks over gravestone of dead lady who was awesome. Kid is opposite of awesome. Everyone is disappointed in him again. They're also disappointed because of this. And here we have a piece of paper. Friday, May 27th, 2022. Lake Placid Middle School, notice of incomplete work. Dear parent/caregiver, Please be advised that Finn Connelly is in danger of failing English 7 and Phys Ed. If missing work is not completed by August 31st, the student will receive a failing grade for the course and may be held back. Physical education, teacher H. James, missed PE classes, 14. Students missing PE hours are required to make up time, 1 hour of moderate to strenuous activity per class missed. A parent or guardian must sign to verify hours. English Language Arts 7, teacher L. Garcia, 7th grade poetry project. What makes a hero? Now you see where that comes into play. Assignment. Draft, revise, and edit a collection of at least 20 poems about people you consider to be heroes. You may write about anyone who inspires you, living or dead. Your collection should begin with an introduction poem and must include at least 5 different poetic forms: haiku, sonnet, acrostic, concrete poem, bound poem, riddle poem, erasure poem, free verse, magic 9, ode, pantoum, sestina, villanella. Be sure to make use of poetic devices such as alliteration, onomatopoeia, simile, and metaphors. Have fun! Why I skipped those gym classes. Have you ever tried to do cardio with a busted heart? Seriously, mine is busy trying to get through the day, half crushed under memories that come pounding in out of nowhere. That's no kind of shape to be running a mile. Introductory poem for the stupid poetry project. You know why I haven't done this project? There's no such thing as a hero. Go ahead, fight me on this. Name your hero, any hero, and give me an hour online. I'll do a deep dive search that pulls up everything you didn't want to know. Who they cheated and cheated on, how the strong ones cried and the honest ones lied, and half of history was tied up in the stuff that got erased from our books as if it never happened at all. I told you all this last week, Miss G. Remember? You nodded and got real quiet. And then you said, maybe you'd like to write about your dad. You waited for me to answer, but I didn't, because it wasn't a question. It was just you spouting off and what makes you think you know what I maybe want and maybe don't. I've had plenty of mean teachers, the kind who just want you to shut up while they drink coffee and wait to retire. And I can deal with that just fine. It's the nice ones you have to watch out for, the ones who keep granola bars in just in case you're hungry baskets by the door, the ones who look at you with kind eyes because they saw some sappy teacher movie. Make a difference in a young person's life. I see you, Miss G, standing there like you care. All, maybe you'd like to write about your dad. Yeah, maybe not. Photograph. Free verse poem for the stupid poetry project. I get it, Miss G. You saw that newspaper clipping on the bulletin board when you went to the library. When you went to get a library card your first week in town. It's more than 20 years old, all yellowed and brittle, but they never took it down, and it's not every day a kid from here gets splashed across the front page of the New York freaking Times. I see that photo in my sleep, every detail. Dad's black coat, white with ash, his hair, his face, like a statue carved in gold gray stone, lines chiseled in his forehead, around his eyes, muddy tear streaked down his cheek as he ran from the North Tower. He had a survivor. He was carrying her in those strong statue arms. Her leg was bleeding and she wore one red shoe, the other lost somewhere in the ashes, smoke, and screams. The photo won awards. It was all people talked about. His face, her shoe. It was all I see now when I try to remember Dad, and maybe that's the trouble with photos. They only capture one frozen moment that grows and grows until the story of that split second when the shutter clicked crowds out the hours and years that happened before and after, and a person becomes nothing but what the camera captured in that instant. Hero, vandal, whatever. Pointless. Free verse poem for the stupid poetry project. The last weeks of school are as pointless as the end of June pencils. Blunt little stubs that can't even remember how sharp they were in September. Face facts, Miss G. Even you and Mr. Link have packed up the textbooks and queued up some old Disney movie you pretend ties in with the curriculum. At this point, We're either going to pass the final or not, finish the project or not, pass the year with flying colors or not. Some of us made that choice a long time ago, and the choice was not. Hero, according to Merriam-Webster's online dictionary. It's written out here. 1. A mythological or legendary figure, often of divine descent, endowed with great strength or ability. B. An illustrious warrior. C. A person admired for achievements and noble qualities. D. One who shows great courage. 2. The principal character in a literary or dramatic work. B. The central figure in an event, period, or movement. Endowed. When you are endowed with something, it's given to you, served on a silver platter. You don't even have to go searching. You don't have to inflate yourself like some sumo wrestler Halloween costume that comes with a pump and makes even walking awkward, plastic skin outside your skin, whole lot of nothing filling the space between, so you're bouncing off walls, wondering if the real you is even still in there at all. Endowed also means bequeathed, handed down in a last will and testament. Dad didn't have one of those, I guess because there wasn't much to leave. Mom has some of his stuff in a closet. I got a box with Dad's baseball hat, high school yearbook, and firefighter badge. His great strength and ability weren't in there. I don't know where those were endowed, but it wasn't to me. 7 more haiku for the stupid poetry project. When Dad was in school, his name was in the paper for playing hockey. Spectacular save. Connelly sets league record. Goalie MVP. They don't write headlines about boys who like to bake. Those are less catchy. Connelly measures butter, sugar, flour, salt, makes tasty cookies. Connelly measures butter, sugar, flour, salt, makes tasty cookies. You see what I mean? So my name never made the news, at least until now. P.S. I didn't forget the elements of haiku. Here's the nature stuff. When you eat cookies outside by a sparkling lake, sparrows sneak the crumbs. June 1st, Essex County Court, 9 a.m. The verdict. On the morning we're supposed to go to court and find out what happens to kids who knock over the wrong headstone, we don't. Instead, Mom leads me to a downtown office where 2 women I don't know are waiting. One in a lawyer-looking suit, the other in a bright blue dress. Some flowery tree tattooed up her ankle, orange scarf slung around her shoulders. The suit stands up. She's the prosecutor in charge of my case. There might not be a court appearance after all, she says, and I'm so relieved I miss what comes next. But I snap to attention when she rattles off the price of the headstone I busted. $2,600 for a weathered hunk of rock. I don't have to look at Mom to know we can't pay that. I'm about to stand up and say, fine, send me off to juvie or whatever, when the suit says something about another way to make reparations. Reparations. The act of making amends, offering expiation, or giving satisfaction for a wrong or injury. Reparations are when you pay back what you took, make amends for harm you caused. We talked about it in Mr. Link's class, how the United States paid reparations to Japanese Americans whose relatives were unjustly imprisoned during World War II. I'm trying to figure out what any of this has to do with the busted headstone when the suit sits down and the scarf stands up. What the scarf said. My name is Kelly Thomas. My mother loved the mountains. It takes me a minute to put those 2 things together. Then I remember the name engraved on the headstone under the moss. Edna Grace Thomas. My muddy footprint smeared over the T on granite we can't afford to replace. I'm sorry, I tell her, and hope for a second that might be reparations enough. But Kelly has something else in mind. My mother had a goal before she died. She wanted to climb all 46 high peaks again, this time with her dog, but she only managed a few before she passed away. I'm sorry, she seems like I was supposed to say, since I still have no clue what this has to do with reparations or with me. My mother loved the mountains, Kelly says again. She believed they had the power to heal, to help a troubled soul feel peace, make a broken person whole. When she says those words, troubled, broken, she looks at me. I don't think my mom would want you punished. She wouldn't want some fancy new headstone. She'd want to take you hiking. Kelly smiles, and just as I'm wondering how much weirder this is going to get, she cuts to the chase. I know you've had some struggles. Here's what I'm willing to do. She'll drop all the charges. I don't have to go to court. I won't get sent to juvie. Don't even have to pay for a new headstone. There's just one thing she wants me to do: climb mountains. Stand on every Adirondack summit, over 4,000 feet, and hike them all this summer. 12 weeks, 46 peaks, finished by Labor Day, and all the charges go away. Her plan's bizarre, and I wait for Mom to say so. When she doesn't, I explain there's no way Mom can take that much time off. No way she can leave Gran alone in the chocolate shop. 46 days in the busy tourist season just so I can climb mountains. How about if I do yard work or bake you some cookies for reparations instead? So I'm not much of a mountain climber myself, but this was a way for this book was a way for me to kind of viscerally live through someone else. But what really hooked me, and this is, the English teacher in me, was that assignment and how that assignment, both the PE assignment and the writing poetry assignment, are going to work together to create this story. And again, reading this was so easy. Oh, yes, and here's one of the cookie recipes that's included. I haven't tried the recipes yet, but I'd really like to see, just what they're actually like. But yeah, the book is such an easy, quick read. I flew through it in just a few hours. I think if you're interested in outdoor adventure type books and you don't want something super long and you don't want your traditional novel, this is absolutely an option. I'd also like to suggest that maybe you try the assignment yourself. Not necessarily the hiking part, although if you live in the area and you want to hike the Adirondack Mountains and knock yourself out, take people with you, don't hike mountains by yourself. But I'd really like to challenge you to consider writing the poems, perhaps. I mean, 20 poems sounds like a lot, but you don't necessarily have to rhyme everything. Some of them were haiku. There's some other short types of poems in here. And if you check one of my previous videos on this channel, one of the teachers that I went to the Oklahoma Writing Project with over the summer took this assignment because I shared this book with the class, so to speak. And for her daily log, she wrote 20 poems, and it took her, I think she said it took her about 4 hours. And so these are just kind of, you start with a strong word, you end with a strong word, and then you move on to the next line. Super, super easy in terms of the kind of poetry that can be written. So that's kind of a writing connection if you want to do some sort of writing related to this book. I would say the main essential question is what makes a hero? My plan for next week is to read With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. I actually read this one a couple of years ago, I think it was, but it is also a really super easy read. So I read With Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo for one of my classes a few years ago, and I I was really busy. I think I was still teaching and I was taking classes and I didn't have time to sit down and read. So I actually purchased the audiobook that Elizabeth Azevedo herself read, and I absolutely loved her voice and the way she reads. I will attempt to do the first chapter justice. It's not a novel in verse like this book is, like today's book is, but I really loved the voice and I loved the baking that was in the book. And so I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you next week. So I will see you then. If you'd like to obtain a copy of The Trouble with Heroes, it should be available in your school library. If it's not, maybe you can give the name to your librarian and they might be able to order the book. If that's not possible, then check with your local town's library. They can sometimes do an interlibrary loan if they don't have it. You can also go to a local bookstore. And then also I will include a link in the description box for this video so that you can order this book online. Again, I'm Michelle Boyd Waters with Rethink ELA. I'm a scholar of adolescent literacy, writing pedagogy, and student-centered learning, and you can find me at rethinkela.com. Also, if you would like to encourage students to engage in both independent and collaborative reading, then I have a unit on my website called Reading Trips. Yes, there are two I's, and there is a reason for that. But you can find it at rethinkela.com/reading trips. Remember, that's trips with two I's. And I will see you again next week.